Henry meets a honeybee. Come join Henry as he takes a walk, enjoying nature, and stumbles upon the adventure of a lifetime. Henry meets Honey, the queen bee of a local hive, and learns all about honeybees from a unique point of view. Watch how knowledge transforms fear to admiration for one of nature's favorite pollinators. Henry Meets a Honeybee is written and illustrated by Justin Ruger, published and distributed by Hippie Chick Apiary. Henry is enjoying his community garden. It's springtime, the weather is warm, and the sun is shining. Henry loves the garden because he's able to see the butterflies flying and hear the birds chirping. Henry loves the smell, the sweet smells coming from the flowers. His favorite is the fragrant buds from the lavender plant. As Henry is smelling the lavender, he's greeted with not only a sweet smell, but a buzzing honeybee. "Oh no," says Henry as he jumps back. He remembers that honeybees have stingers and is afraid that being too close puts him in danger. Little does he know that his view of honeybees is about to change forever, because out from behind the lavender bush pops a honeybee wearing a crown. "Hello," says the honeybee. The honeybee continues, "My name is Honey. I'm the queen bee of the hive in this garden." And Henry stammers, "You can talk?" Honey flies around Henry's head while chuckling to herself, "Why, yes, I can talk. I'm here to teach you about honeybees and why you shouldn't be afraid of us," says Honey. Thinking to himself, he mumbles, "What could go wrong?" No sooner does wrong pass his lips than he starts to spin and shrink at an alarming rate. "What is happening to me?" he yells out. Honey, still circling the lavender bush, says, "To show you all about honeybees, I've turned you into one." Henry, getting used to his new wings, flies to the nearest puddle of water and sees his reflection. "Oh no," he exclaims. "What do I do now?" Honey looks at him and with a tilt of her crown says, "Follow me, and I will teach you what I can." Buzzing through the air, Honey leads Henry to a nearby newly opened lavender bud, and Henry, still adapting to his new wings, struggles to keep up and finally joins her. Honey looks at Henry. "Now listen here, Henry. Plants like lavender will not be possible without honeybees. We help them grow by carrying pollen from one plant to another. This is called pollination, and without it, plants would struggle to grow." "Hurry on now," Honey says. "We have lots to see." They take off and fly through rows of plants, dodging stems and flying past other insects who live in the garden. Henry, new to being a honeybee, gets used to flying and loses his concentration. Bang! Henry feels a big push on his side as he is thrust to the right. This startles him until he looks up and realizes he almost ran into a large wooden frame that has a small opening. Honey, who knocked Henry out of the way, exclaims, "What are you thinking? You almost ran into our home." Henry is blown away by the size and busyness of the hive. It is so large compared to him and Honey. Nothing could explain the large number of bees flying back and forth out of the hive opening. Honey, letting Henry regain himself, says, "Welcome home. This is the hive." Henry looks around and notices that not all the bees look the same. He turns to Honey. "Why are the honeybees different sizes?" She answers, happy that he's taking an interest. "The honeybees are different sizes because they play different roles." "I am the largest," states Honey. "I am the queen. I am responsible for providing the new honeybees, picking the home and keeping the hive together. There is only one of me. Also, if I sting you, it is to protect myself, and it does not harm me." "The second largest are the drones," exclaims Honey. "They are responsible for providing new honeybees as well. There is more than one drone, but fewer than the worker bees. Drones do not have stingers, and will never bother you, Henry. The smallest honeybees are the worker bees, informs Honey. They're responsible for taking care of me, nursing the new bees, building and cleaning our home, and collecting the nectar and pollen from plants. This is the bee that you met before I showed up. Worker bees are the ones that you see out in the wild that people are afraid of being stung by. Remember, Henry, just like the humans, honeybees only sting if they are threatened, so treat them with respect and you will never have an issue with them. Now follow me, Henry, she says as Honey pushes Henry towards the opening of the hive. Let's get inside and see what it looks like on the inside before returning you to normal. Henry flies through the opening, amazed at the immediate sight around him. The honeycomb glistening with the little light the opening lets in. Henry stops. I can't see, he says. Honey says, don't worry, Henry. Your eyes will adjust. Unlike humans, who need light to see, honeybees have 2 eyes with 5 parts. These eyes allow the honeybees to distinguish between light and dark differently, and see the world as a mosaic rather than a single image. As Henry's eyes start to adjust, a whole new world opens up for him. He watches in amazement as thousands of honeybees hustle around doing their jobs. Honey glistens locked in the honeycomb, and Honey takes her place on the honeycomb as the queen of the bees. Are you ready to learn about each job? Asks Honey. Henry, bewilderment in his eyes, utters a barely audible yes. Honey starts to walk away as Henry rushes to catch up. Quick, follow me, she says as she leads Henry to the worker bees, who work as cleaners. This is where the cleaners work when they are 1 to 2 days old, informs Honey. Henry looked around at the bees who are cleaning and polishing the empty cells. What are they cleaning up for? Asks Henry. Honey answering with a smirk, why, for me, of course. They're preparing the cells for new eggs that I lay, to store nectar and pollen for honey. Smiling even bigger, just like your parents and your room. If the cells are not clean enough, I make them do it again. Now hurry along, let us go see the nurse. This is where the nurse bees work, Honey starts to describe. Henry darts to a cell and starts staring at a circular worm-looking thing in the cell. What is that? Henry asks excitedly. Our babies, answers Honey, continuing. These larvae are what come from the eggs and are taken care of by the nurse bees. The nurse bees check on them up to 1,000 times a day and feed them royal jelly to make them grow big and strong. Henry, overloaded with information, asks, wow, can there be any more? Glad you asked, Honey mutters as she whisks Henry to the builders. Henry and Honey watch the bees move back and forth making beeswax, building the cells that the larvae grow within and the cleaners clean. These are the builders. They're responsible for making the wax that builds the cells. Honey explains as Henry listens intently, and she continues with, the builders need large amounts of food to make these wax flakes, and they build them into honeycomb structures. Wow, exclaims Henry before stopping short. Looking worried, Henry states, it is starting to get hot in here. Honey, leading the way, let us go see the temperature bees. Oh, says Henry with a sigh of relief. It's much cooler here. These are the temperature control bees, says Honey. They're responsible for cooling the hive in spring and summer. Well, what keeps it warm in winter? Asks Henry. Honey, looking saddened, explains, we have to huddle together to keep warm in winter, as there's not enough food or heat for all of us. But we make it work, and I lay eggs to replace anyone who does not make it. This is so interesting, but I have a question, states Henry. Who protects the hive? I thought you'd never ask, states Honey, leading Henry back to the entrance to teach him about the last 2 jobs of worker bees. Now I will teach you about the foragers and the guard bees, says Honey, stopping to see if Henry is still with her. She continues, these are the guard bees, their last job before becoming foragers. They're responsible for keeping away bees from other hives called robbers and other pests that may try to get in the hive. Their role is vital to the survival of the hive itself. Wide-eyed as bees fly in and out with giant yellow balls of pollen around their legs, Henry asks, what are they? Tipping her crown as the forager passes by. Those are the foragers, and they're responsible for getting pollen and nectar from the plants, as you saw before this entire journey. Plants would not grow without us, and as we would not grow without them. Let's head back inside, Henry, says Honey. As they enter the hive, Henry hears a rumble and notices light flooding the hive. Oh, the beekeeper is here, exclaims Honey. He will be looking for me to make sure I'm healthy and okay, as well as looking at the rest of the hive to make sure we are healthy. This is the end of our journey, Henry. You go and head back to the community garden. You'll find you become a boy again at the lavender plant. Henry, flustered by the commotion and buzzing, flies past billows of smoke. Taking a second to look over his shoulder, he mouths, "Thank you," and continues on his journey past the lilies and lands on the bud of the lavender plant. Without a moment to lose, Henry tries to rush the process of becoming a boy again, saying, "I want to be a boy again. I want to be a boy again." Before you know it, a shimmering swirl of light and an immediate increase in size, Henry realizes he has become a boy again. After his experience, Henry vows to do his part to save the bees and become a beekeeper.